Ahmaud Arbery is seen on video entering a house. It is under construction. Now we see a video of two kids uh, that either approached or went in the place a couple days before, and a white couple that approached, maybe entered, apparently on the same day of the shooting, but that's all I see. But more people trespassing does not make someone else's trespassing not a crime. Trespassing, I've not looked investigated in their state. Here, I believe it would be a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. But when you trespass and enter into a home or dwelling, if you have intent to commit a crime, it's burglary. If you break and enter, it's burglary. And when it's a residence, it's much more harsh, up to 20 years for residential burglary. And there's a lot of pricey lumber. I've tore houses down, pricey lumber and wood, and usually tools laying around. And it looked like in this one there very much was. And unless it's just a foundation or less than that, even, it's a dwelling, it's a house. This was a lot farther than that. This was a house, it was a legal dwelling, and on a piece of property where it was plain it doesn't need no trespassing signs. It's plainly private property, plainly a residence. It is trespassing, it is a crime, and you don't know what's in a person's mind. The owner is blowing the whole thing down, saying nothing was taken. He might have been going after water. That could be true, but people observed him and they observed someone else dressed exactly the same in other instances that day and on other days, and not certain if those ones are him, but the day of it was him. But this other person had the exact same clothes on in other instances. Going in, it was trespassing, at least a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor in Georgia. And even if ultimately that's the only crime you could attribute to that entry, that is enough for a citizen's arrest. I don't think they're legal in my state, but no, they weren't officers. But in Georgia, citizen's arrest is legal. You can try to block, it's like security persons trying to stop a shoplifter. There's certain things they can do short of what officers can do. They can't fire at them. They can't wrestle them down to cause certain types of bodily harm. I'm not entirely sure where the line's drawn, but I know that you can get in their way. You can attempt to slow them up or block them in. And that's what these cars tried to do, is to block. And I saw them maneuver around with their bodies and try to block the path. And the thing is, they were announcing the whole way. People say you see someone with guns, and especially you're a woman or a black person in a neighborhood that's white, and you see people following, and then they get ahead of you and stop and get out, and they have guns. What are you going to think? You're going to try to defend yourself. That's why he went for his gun. But they're announcing the whole time they just want to talk to him. They just want to make a citizen's arrest and let the police come. Just wait and let the police come. We just want to ask about that house back there that you went into. They're announcing that. No one's disputing that. So he doesn't go for the gun for any reason, out of fear or anything. Would you go for the gun in that situation and you hear them announcing that? Wouldn't you just stand back and put your arms up and say, let's wait for the police to get here? I've done nothing. Or if I have, I've done something very minor. It doesn't warrant anything like this. Wait for proper authorities to get there, or would you dive for the gun? If a cop was there, once anyone, whether they've done nothing wrong or not, once they're going for your gun, they're doing something wrong now. And even a private person, if the situation wasn't evolving like it was, and it was just a private person that legally has a gun. And in Georgia, you can open carry. People can have permits to have them, but open carry is allowed. It wasn't concealed carry, it was open carry. handguns or long guns. So long guns like that, in plain visible sight, they can have them and carry them just how they did. They never raised them and pointed them until after Arbery was wrestling for the other gun. They had them open, they had them either in or near a house or in and on their vehicle or right beside it. And that is especially legal. Right out in the open, they can have those guns. So if this wasn't an incident of seeing someone in a property or a citizen's arrest and just people that were parked there and someone's walking or jogging by and they just go for the gun, it'd be just like a police officer legally having his gun there, but now someone's trying to take it. So they're either trying to steal it or you assume they're trying to take it and use it on you so you defend yourself. Everything they did, meaning the McMichaels, was legal. They had enough probable cause, even if Arbery did not burglarize and commit a felony. He trespassed and entered without breaking and entering. He entered and trespassed at least a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. And so there's probable cause because they don't know if he was casing the place, wanting to come back at a later time when it's dark, because that's what you would assume if people are scoping out a place when there's things of value in there. So that is not too far of a reach of an assumption to come to. Um, the news and Fox News as well is just doing the old divide and conquer. You know, we don't want either race to have beefs with one another. I don't want one race uh, winning out in every instance over another unfairly or anything. We just want to be of one accord and for it to go fair and even down the line. But this is just a divide and conquer. They know that people will react in predictable ways, and it's divide and conquer. We as citizens are not the bad guys here. It's the news and the authorities that are doing all this. As for the crime itself, it's too bad that Ahmaud felt like, and he easily could have been high strung and worked up. I suspect in his mind he wasn't as innocent as what he's made out to be. He was jogging down the road. That doesn't mean he was just out for a jog. He was jogging and hustling. Earlier, he was just walking and going into a place. Um, but to have happen isn't what needed to happen. Even if he was thinking about stealing and burglarizing later, he hadn't yet. If police could have got there, and there was at least two 911 calls made, police should have just been on the scene and there wouldn't have had to be a citizen's arrest or hold anyone till they get there. They should have just already been there. Why weren't they? They want to have this 74 days when no one was arrested look into why police weren't just already there. There was 911 calls made, and what I heard said by the McMichaels on those calls seemed reasonable and seemed to add up to what had actually taken place. um, they didn't want to shoot anyone. They didn't hunt someone down to shoot him, and the guy behind him, he didn't have a gun, and yet people have made threats on him and accused him of having a gun, saying just hearing a sound in the car. And so they're sure and gone on national news saying he had a gun behind him and boxed him in. And it's just not true. That guy is innocent of anything at all. He did things to help the police and gave the footage to make the case go forward. Um, he's helped the prosecution. Um, but they've just spun everything around to turn everyone against one another. It's just a bad scene all around. Um, you know, Ahmaud, I know that they were announcing what they were up to, If it was me, I wouldn't care for it. And in my mind, I would think, well, you're just people like me. Who are you to hold me up? But it would also be up to me to know that in the state I'm in, that there is a citizen's arrest law. And even though I don't like it, because I know I'd be saying, you're just a guy like me. You're not an officer. Who are you to try to hold me here? I would say that at a grocery store, even if I had shoplifted something, which I don't make a practice of doing, but I think any of us would say that. If you're not an officer, we don't feel like we need to listen to what you say. We don't feel like we need to show you our receipt when we go out of Walmart. We pay for things, we don't steal, we pay too much. You know, it's just unfortunate all around. I think some people will be surprised if it goes to a jury. A lot of people are going to vote guilty just out of animosity. They're going to have to be careful of that. Um, but I would see a hung jury, or maybe it will be a judge that makes the decision, um, or it will be an acquittal. Um, but I also, with it becoming such a nationally and emotionally charged event, even though the defense could feel confident that they shouldn't need to plead to anything, um, a plea bargain, I think, is the most likely thing that will take place. Some kind of bail will be set that they can meet somehow, perhaps, and some type of plea agreement, and get the families to understand that it's too risky to go to trial and that they will get some time. It won't be life altering time, but it will be time along with fines and things that are going to keep them in the system for some time to come, because although they were legal in my mind, certainly in how they went about that citizen's arrest, it could have been done much, much more different to be much, much more safe. But I can't speak to what was happening. Some are saying there was no recent break ins. Well, there was. I see records of 4 since January 1 calls. And just because there wasn't calls that, they're saying there's been, I'm sure most of the homes there have surveillance. They're saying there's been lots and lots of prowlers and things captured on home camera footage. I assume that that's true. I don't think people are lying about that. It happens all the time, right where I live. We recently had cameras put in my mom's house and in my building. Because of that, we really had to fight for them in my building. It happens everywhere, it seems like. And people are out stealing bicycles just to ride across town and then ditch them. So I can understand with the McMichaels also just getting a little fired up and maybe doing a little more than they had to, but it was still within the law in my mind, absolutely. You know, Ahmaud, he came out and came around this side of the truck. Ahmaud was over here, so it goes around here. He should have either stopped or went off this way, and he should just stop and go to a walk, you know. And he could holler back and say, if the police are coming, I'm going to be right here in the park. They can come talk to me or whatever, you know. But he went this way and went around, and Michael did step around the front of his truck and come to the side of his truck. But just like it explains in the law, kind of step in their way, try to impede their progress, slow them down, but don't point a gun or a weapon or use it on them. Don't grab them or do anything, and you can't cuff them or do anything. But you can try to block their path, slow them down, compel them without force to stay until the police arrive and tell them, announce that that's what you're doing. Just like the police announce who they are. It's police. Police, open up. Police, we have a warrant. Announce that you're there acting on behalf of the police. citizen's arrest. We want to talk to you about whatever it was. And we want the police to talk to you about it and clear it up. We'd like you to stay. So that's why we're kind of moving and blocking your path. He came around this way to kind of block his path, which the law allows, even though, sure, a person might be scared, intimidated to coming around trying to block my path. He's holding a long gun like that, but it was legal for him to have that long gun in Georgia. A lot of people are from states with totally different laws. They can have open carry there. They have no felonies of McMichaels on their records, nothing that prohibits them from owning guns, be it handguns or long guns, rifles and shotguns. And they're not concealed, they're just right out in the open, perfectly legal for them to have them in any, uh, setting. Especially right in your home, adjacent to it, or your vehicle or adjacent to it, which is where they were at all times. And he just come over. He didn't even step in front of Ahmaud. He was to the side of the pickup. He didn't go way out around, which he could have, but he probably figured, well, then they're going to move up the road again. So he chose, when he's here right in front of the right passenger side of the pickup, Ahmaud's a few feet over here. He chose to come in and go down low and wrestle over the gun. And there was another guy with a gun. And once you're wrestling over a gun, you know, he made the choice to do that. He made the choice to do that. And there's a reason for that, whatever it may be. Was he not as innocent in his mind as what people make him out? Was he just so afraid that he didn't think rationally enough and that's what he did? Why would he be if they're announcing what they're there for and what they want him to do to just wait for the police? And even if he had entered the place, it's just a misdemeanor at most, and probably just a warning and just don't do it again. Because like people said, a handful of people had, and I've seen people do it, walk up and look in a place that's open, even though I know that no, you can't do that. It is a home, it is a dwelling. I've torn places down and stayed on them overnight, and there's still a fireplace. We can still build a fire. And one time, the town police came, made sure, who are you? What are you doing here? You're trespassing. We had to try to call our boss. We couldn't reach him. Finally, we reached him, and he gave the number to the police for the doctor. They called the doctor. They told him our last names. The doctor thinks we're saying is, yeah, they're supposed to be there. They're working with my guy, and they're his assistants, and they're staying overnight. Because for one, they could use a place to stay the night, and for two, they're watching the premises because the place is open. We're taking the wood and everything we can and selling it off. Other people doing construction sites around are buying supplies every day, hundreds of dollars, $200-300 or more every day, just in odds and ends of wood supplies. Um, so we're there to be security on the place. So that is something that's very necessary. And I saw in the video all kinds of lumber and it looked like wiring and electrical ends and supplies and tools and things. Plenty of money, and not counting parts that had already been put up and people could tear down, and I've had it done. I've seen a place not far away. People tore the wiring out of the walls and recycled all of it. When people were gone on vacation, they redid the entire thing for several $1,000s. They left for a weekend, and that's all it took. Someone did it again, and this was just a home, not something under construction or nothing. So there's plenty of reason people do prey on these homes, especially when they're open. Okay, that's Just a little take for now. We'll see.